They say wisdom begins in wonder. But for Socrates, wisdom began with something even deeper: doubt. To doubt not the world, but oneself. To question one's beliefs, desires, fears, and purpose until the illusions crumble and truth, however uncomfortable, begins to shine through. In a world obsessed with certainty, Socrates walked the streets of Athens asking questions that no one wanted to answer. And for that, he became immortal. Imagine walking through ancient Athens 2,500 years ago. The city was alive with art, politics, and philosophy. The Parthenon gleamed under the Athenian sun, citizens debated in the agora, and democracy itself was being tested in real time. But amidst all that brilliance was a man who owned nothing, taught nothing formally, and yet changed the course of human thought forever. He called himself ignorant, yet his ignorance was wiser than the knowledge of others. His weapon? A question. His battlefield? The human mind. Socrates believed that the greatest danger in life was not ignorance, it was the illusion of knowledge. The belief that you already know, that you've figured life out, that your opinions are truth. He compared himself to a midwife, helping others give birth to understanding through dialogue. He didn't give answers. He gave discomfort. And through that discomfort, people began to see the cracks in their own certainty. When someone claimed to know what justice was, Socrates would ask, "What is justice?" When someone said they understood virtue, he would ask, "What makes it good?" And in those moments, people realized their definitions were shallow. They had memorized words, not understood their essence. Socrates showed them that true wisdom begins when you realize how little you actually know. He was poor, often barefoot, mocked by his fellow citizens, and yet, he was feared. Because questioning the world threatens those who live comfortably within it. He didn't teach people how to win arguments, he taught them how to lose their illusions. And that, more than anything, is the art of self-questioning, the courage to lose your illusions for the sake of truth. But why did Socrates believe that the unexamined life is not worth living? Those words, spoken at his trial, echo through time like a challenge to every human being. An unexamined life is one lived on autopilot, driven by social approval, fear, habit, or desire. It's when you follow what others call success without ever asking what success truly means for you. It's when you let the crowd define your values and never pause to ask, "Is this really what I believe?" To live an examined life is not about rejecting society. It's about becoming conscious within it. It's to ask, why do I want what I want? Who benefits from my beliefs? Am I living or merely existing? Most people never ask those questions, because asking them threatens the comfort of routine. But Socrates chose truth over comfort. Even when truth led him to death. When the Athenians accused him of corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods, Socrates could have begged for mercy. He could have renounced his teachings. But he refused. Because to deny the examined life would be to deny the very essence of who he was. He chose to drink the hemlock rather than live a lie. In that moment, he became the first true martyr of philosophy, not dying for a belief, but for the right to question all beliefs. What does this mean for us today? We live in an age where information is endless, but reflection is rare. We scroll, we react, we comment, but do we ever stop to think? We consume opinions without examining them. We follow trends without asking why. In many ways, the modern world is the unexamined life on a global scale. Our minds are full, but our souls are empty. Socrates would look at us and ask, "Are you living according to your own understanding, or someone else's?" He would challenge us to slow down, to think, to question not just what we see but what we are. He would remind us that wisdom doesn't come from knowledge alone, it comes from knowing the limits of your knowledge. The art of self-questioning is like polishing a mirror. Every question removes a little bit of the dust that clouds your reflection. At first, it's uncomfortable. You start seeing parts of yourself you've ignored, your fears, your contradictions, your hypocrisy. But if you stay with it, that same mirror begins to reveal something more profound: clarity, humility, and truth. Socrates' greatest gift to humanity wasn't a doctrine, it was a method. The Socratic method. A way of discovering truth through dialogue and contradiction. You start with a question, challenge the assumptions behind it, and through that process, uncover deeper understanding. It's not about being right, it's about becoming real. In your own life, try asking the question Socrates would ask. What is happiness? What is success? What is love? What is justice? What is courage? And when you answer, don't stop there. Ask again, why? What makes it so? Who told you that? This is the art of self-questioning, not to tear yourself apart, but to rebuild yourself consciously. There's a kind of quiet power in those who examine their lives deeply. They don't need external validation because they know who they are. They don't fear change because they've already faced their inner chaos. They don't cling to rigid beliefs because they've seen how fragile certainty can be. That's the Socratic spirit, not to be perfect, but to be awake. To question yourself is to live with awareness. It means noticing when your ego takes over, when fear drives your choices, when you react instead of reflect. It means realizing that your thoughts are not always true, your emotions are not always right, and your beliefs are not sacred, they're just starting points for deeper exploration. The tragedy of the unexamined life is not just that it's shallow. It's that it leaves you disconnected from yourself, from others, from reality. You might achieve everything you were told to desire, yet still feel empty. Because meaning doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from awareness. Socrates' death reminds us that truth is costly. The examined life demands honesty, brutal, uncomfortable honesty. You must confront not only the world's lies, but your own. You must admit when you are wrong, when you've acted from pride, when your motives are impure. But in that vulnerability lies transformation. He once said, "To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom." But how many of us truly know ourselves? We know our jobs, our goals, our roles, but not our essence. We define ourselves through labels: student, worker, parent, artist. Yet beneath all that, there's something more silent and vast, your conscious awareness itself. The part of you that can observe your own thoughts. That, Socrates would say, is where real knowledge begins. Socrates didn't claim to have answers. In fact, he believed that only the gods possessed true knowledge. But he understood something eternal, that wisdom is not about knowing facts, but understanding meaning. Knowledge fills the mind, wisdom transforms the soul. In modern life, where everything urges us to react faster, to move quicker, to consume more, Socrates teaches us the radical act of slowing down. To pause before judgment. To question before believing. To understand before acting. The world says, "Decide now." Socrates whispers, "Think first." And that whisper could save you from manipulation, from self-deception, from a life lived unconsciously. Because every unchecked thought becomes a belief, every unexamined belief becomes an action, and every unexamined action becomes your destiny. The examined life is not a guarantee of happiness, it's a guarantee of authenticity. You may still suffer, you may still fail, but at least your suffering will be real, not borrowed from someone else's script. You will live a life that is truly yours. When Socrates stood before his judges, he said he could have escaped death if he had stopped questioning. But then he added, "If I say that it is the greatest good for a man to discuss virtue every day, and that the unexamined life is not worth living, you will believe me still less." He knew that truth was rarely popular. But he also knew that popularity is a poor measure of meaning. Today, his spirit lives in every person who dares to ask, why? In every mind that refuses to accept easy answers. In every soul that values truth over comfort. Socrates reminds us that philosophy isn't a subject, it's a way of being. It's the daily practice of awareness, honesty, and courage. You don't have to wear robes or read dusty books to live philosophically. You just have to look within and refuse to lie to yourself. So, if you ever feel lost, overwhelmed, or uncertain, start where Socrates started, with a question. Not a Google search, not a social media post, but a real question asked in silence. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? The examined life is not a destination, it's a journey that never ends. But along the way, something beautiful happens, you begin to wake up. You begin to live, not merely exist. You begin to see that life's greatest wisdom isn't hidden in temples or texts, it's hidden within you, waiting to be discovered through the courage to question. And perhaps that's what Socrates meant all along, that to live a life worth living, you must dare to know yourself, not as others see you, not as you wish to be, but as you truly are. The examined life is the art of asking the right questions and finding that the answers were never outside you, they were always within.